Without using a graphing calculator, describe each of the following functions by stating the amplitude, period, horizontal shift, and vertical shift. Using this information, sketch the graph of each function. After you have completed each graph, check your sketch with a graphing calculator and correct and explain any errors. Amplitude would be 2. The vertical shift, there isn't any. So that would be none. The horizontal shift would be pi over 6. And then the b value, that would have none to it either. The amplitude of this equation would be 1. The vertical shift would be 3. The horizontal shift would be none because there isn't any. And the b value would be 1 over 3. And the period would be 2 pi over 1 times 3 over 1. And then the period would equal 2 pi over b. The amplitude would be 3. The vertical shift would be none. The horizontal shift would also be none. And the b value would be 4, and the period would be 2 pi over 4 and reduced down to pi over 2. The amplitude would be 1. The vertical shift would be none. The horizontal shift would be 1. The b value would be 1 over 2, and the period would be 2 pi over 1 times 2 over 1, which would equal 4 pi. Farah and Thu are working on writing the equation of a sine function for the graph at right. They figure out that the amplitude is 3. The horizontal shift is pi over 4. And the midline is y equals negative 2. they can see that the period is pi, but they disagree on the equation. Farah has written f of x equals 3 sine 2 parentheses x minus pi over 4 parentheses minus 2. And Thu has written f of x equals 3 sine parentheses 2x minus pi over 4 parentheses minus 2. A, whose equation is correct? How can you be sure? B, sketch a graph of the incorrect equation and explain how it is different from the original graph.
Farah's equation is f of x equals 3 sine 2x minus pi over 4 minus 2. Thu's is f of x equals 3 sine 2x minus pi over 4 minus 2. But we know about the equation is there's an amplitude of 3,
So you chose these two, right? You
horizontal
these two.
shift
But
of
yeah, just I mean you could
pi over 4,
so if you did
a
these
vertical
you could eliminate x without
shift of negative 2, or no, actually, oops, my bad.
because you're subtracting.
My bad. It's the midline is at y equals negative 2.
Oh my god, really important.
And the period equals pi. So from this, what we need to do is we need to use these values and plug it in to this equation right here. Okay, so K is the vertical shift, or it's normally where the midline is, and the equation said the midline is at y minus 2. So we put the negative 2 in K. So minus 2. Now, we know there's a horizontal shift of pi over 4. Now, we're going to put that in H because H is what the horizontal shift is. 4. We also know there's an amplitude of 3, and that goes here because it's the amplitude. Yeah. And to find B, we use the period, which is pi. We use that to find B because period also equals 2 pi over B. And the only way to get pi from that is by hold on. I'll show you. So you multiply it by b pi equals 2 pi, and then you divide it by pi, and b equals 2 pi over pi. Those cancel out, so b equals 2, and then you put that here, and when you look at this equation, it's the same as Farah's, not Thu's.
This is the basic equation, which is y equals a times sine parentheses bx plus c parentheses plus d. A is the amplitude, b is the period, c is the phase shift, and d is the vertical shift. The amplitude is the height from the center line to the peak. The period is the length from one peak to the next, or from another point to the next matching point. The phase shift is how far the function is horizontally to the right of the usual position. The vertical shift, or the midline shift, is how far the function is vertically from the usual position. The peak is the height of the graph of how high it reaches or how low it reaches to.